Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So we have more news, more kind of comic announcements, a slight update to the Azula announcement from yesterday. And then also one very interesting piece of information that I don't really know what to make of, but we'll get through it. So we're going to start here with the big news, and that is that finally the Imbalance Omnibus edition has been announced. As you can see here on Penguin Random House. It's here, Avatar The Last Airbender Imbalance Omnibus, $24.99, coming out August 8th, 2023. That, of course, because it's Penguin Random House, this is a kind of mass market date, is what's kind of planned here. And, you know, I suppose it roughly makes sense. They tend to have these release in or around, like, somewhat close to a new release. So, this coming out, like, the month before the Azula comic. It makes sense to a certain degree. So at least they're gradually filling out the lineup, but it's becoming more and more clear that basically between like now and then, we only have the free comic really. And so it puts a lot of pressure on, like, we need that Yang Chen book announcement soon. So we have something potentially July or who knows when it's going to hit. But as sort of expected, the year is looking very second half kind of backloaded. But anyway, so we have the new cover here, which I'll go in depth on a little bit more in a second. But, you know, otherwise, it's just the description for Imbalance, of course. Brand new cover by Peter Wortman, as expected. You can tell from the art. And, of course, this is a collection of the previous ones. So if we take a closer look at the cover here, you can see it's pretty nice. Obviously, from a consistency point of view, with the other Omnibus editions, no attempt was made here to make it really look anything similar. And I would have liked that. I honestly, like, when I was thinking about this, I was expecting that they would do the white background, but Peter Wortman doing the character art and choosing the key characters from Imbalance. I would have liked that, just to see, you know, the switch in artist, but the same style of cover. The cover here, look, it's very nice. It is. But it's part of a set, and it's going to slot in right next to your other ones. What's going on here? And then we also have to bring up the idea of the spine image across the Omnibus editions. And, like, is this not... I guess this can't be part of it because the image is basically done. Or are they just going to add in the tiny, like, fraction that's kind of left over on the edge of the image? Or will they just have it be, like, a generic cover? Or will this start something else? We don't really know. Now, obviously, from the first Korra Omnibus edition, we know that there's no real attempt to do anything there. So I'm assuming we'll just get something similar to that. But yeah, art is nice. Aang on his glider. The rest of the kind of team that's sort of like in focus in this comic on Appa. That's pretty nice. And yeah, the background also does look very good. But just, yeah, the consistency kind of thing, I would have liked to have seen an attempt at doing the same style as the Gurihuru covers. And I wonder, like, was that ever brought up in the kind of whatever discussion about, like, a new cover for the Omnibus? Like, you know, the artist maybe want to do it that way, but they said, nah, just do your own thing. I'd love to see what the actual kind of details were on that. But yeah, this is basically your final like reprint book for Dark Horse, because after this, they technically don't really have any other like editions of books to do, especially because it seems like this is just the way that the Team Avatar Treasury style thing, where it's just the 3 books in a kind of slipcase style thing, is going to be how they do the collections for one-shots. So I'm assuming this is how we'll eventually get the Azula comic collected, and the Mako comic, whenever that one gets announced, it'll just be done like this. It still probably leaves open the idea of a library edition for, like, collecting these and the other books eventually, but they don't seem to be going in that direction. So with this, they have effectively reprinted everything, and apart from a couple of free comic book day books that are kind of left over, that will have to be done the next time they do an Avatar short story collection or a Korra short story collection. They don't really have anything left over. So I'm glad that we're kind of done with the reprints, because while they're nice as like new books to have and to offer the new edition, and especially because the omnibus editions are sort of like the go-to ones if you're starting a collection, it's really nice to have this to recommend the complete set of the 6 Avatar comic trilogies to people. But again, there's just that whole inconsistency thing of then these exact same like size books, but just because they're one-shots, they don't get collected into library editions or omnibuses apparently. We'll see what they do with that. Maybe they will do an omnibus edition of these, who knows. If they really need books, they can do those reprints if they need to. Next, we'll get into this. So after Amazon sort of, I guess, put up their listing a little early, later on in the day, they did like fully announce this. Screen Rant had an article, they had the press release, then Dark Horse put up their own blog about it and were posting about it, so it got fully revealed, announced yesterday. So the speculation from yesterday was basically like, oh, what will the comic book store date be? But unfortunately, September is the confirmed date, as you can see here. It's September 26th for bookstores, and that will be the digital release date. And comic shops is September 27th, so that is the planned date. So it's not that it'll come out earlier in comic book stores. Again, this is not factoring in any potential distributor delays, which could delay one or the other. It's not factoring in the idea that Dark Horse have had a bad reputation these last couple of years of thus their books getting quite heavily delayed after release. Now, for the most part, books that are done by Faith Erin Hicks and Peter Wortman, this creative team, haven't been delayed. But my understanding of a lot of the books that have been delayed is that it's not really down to the creative team. So we'll see what happens with this one. But already just the fact that it is a September release and it's not a summer release anymore is a little bit frustrating, that in the last sort of like 6 or so months, there has clearly been a delay that has pushed it out of hitting any sort of a summer date. And this might suggest that the Mako comic, which was scheduled for roughly, like it might make it into 2023, may actually not make it out this year. But they do have a description. And what's interesting about this is that it seems like the comic description, the press release description, is slightly different than the one that we got from Amazon. It's slightly expanded. It doesn't reveal much more, but it gives you a little bit of extra context. So the first section is the same, like this whole section here, Solitary Monk, her destabilization campaign, the failure of the last attack, but then they changed this bit here. So what seems like a place to safely pass the night is quickly revealed to be something horrifyingly different. Azula is forced to confront her past and will finally face her chance at redemption, but will she take it? So they've worded this slightly differently to kind of allude to, okay, much more creepier stuff going on here compared to the other one, which kind of just said that, like, you know, basically kind of what will happen in the spirit temple, Solitary Monk. But now it's establishing that, like, she finds her way out here. So obviously, if you factor in the preview pages, she's left, I guess, by the other fire warriors, and on her own finds this temple and goes to sort of like hang out here for the night. Maybe meets the monk before she decides to go to sleep, and things seem relatively peaceful. But then at night, some sort of crazy spirit shenanigans, I guess, happen. But they're talking about, like, what's interesting about, like, it's horrifyingly different. So something crazy happens here, which makes me lean towards this is some sort of either dark spirit or a spirit who doesn't really like humanity, is chaotic in some way. That's kind of an interesting idea. And then Azula is forced to confront her past. So whatever happens here, whatever she's shown, it is forced to happen. She doesn't choose to make it happen, which is quite interesting. And then she will face a chance at redemption. But, like, how will this happen in just, like, in the spirit temple? And this is where it feels like, I'm guessing she is going to have to be shown some sort of a spirit vision. Now, the whole confront her past thing I find to be very, very interesting in that, like, what exactly are they alluding to there? Is this, if, like, they're going to do a redemption for the character, I suppose it's the character having to acknowledge the bad things that they've done. So for Azula, I suppose this is mainly sort of how, like, for instance, she treated her friends, what forced May and Ty Lee into having to, betray her like they did. The way, I suppose, she approaches her relationship with Zuko, how she views her relationship with Ursa, and just in general, I suppose, maybe how she conducts herself, full stop. And the whole idea is that she has currently experienced quite a few failures. So being confronted directly with the idea of, like, basically, here is your approach, never working, make a new choice to find your actual destiny. And I wonder, will they address that? The whole idea of she realizes her destiny is not to get the throne. Where did she get that from in Smoke and Shadow? Did she just decide that, like, do you know what? Yeah, I realize it's not for me. And is this going to be maybe a case of she's actually shown the potential path that she could take? Now, I don't know. They're teasing the idea of it. I really feel at this point, you won't see it happen. There's no way I think it's going to happen in this book. I can see this maybe being some sort of a thing where you can see it. You see the idea of this is the choice Azula should make. But she, like Zuko in Crossroads of Destiny, I get the feeling, will make the wrong choice here. And set her up, like, perfectly, I'm guessing, for whatever appearance she is going to make in one of these Avatar movies coming up. I think that's probably what they'll have to do. Those movies, I think, will need someone like an Azula to make them interesting. And I think this is all about positioning Azula ahead of that. So they'll definitely, I think, allude to redemption. And they'll, I think, have Azula really consider, like, what if I just did things differently and tried to be better? But something will happen and it will get her back onto her track. Now, will they commit to sort of like the separation or whatever from the Fire Warriors is permanent? Who knows? Perhaps. Because they might not want to explain and really get into those details in like a movie and stuff like that. Have to establish that, like, wait, what's this weird group that like Azula has with her? So it's better maybe to have her maybe be on her own. But there's a little bit more to this that I think just adds something to it, and I think you get a better sense for how the story might play out from the way it is worded here, like horrifyingly forced to confront her path, and then just because they're being so open about the redemption, I wonder what way they're going to tackle it, because there's a lot riding on this book. This book has to deliver. It can't just be another forgettable story. This has to be, I think, must read, because by the time this comes out, it will be like 7 years since the last time we advanced Azula's story. That's when Smoke and Shadow Part 3 came out. I think it was 2016. So we're going kind of late, basically 2023. It's gonna be 7 years. They need to deliver with this book. We have waited long enough, so hopefully it delivers. And now that it's finally announced, you're seeing a lot of excitement for this, because finally there is news that is about something big in the Avatar story. So there's that. And then we get to this. So this is LinkedIn. This is just a person that someone found who happens to work for Paramount Animation. And on their LinkedIn, it says that their current role is as the production accountant on something known as Avatar: The Last Airbender, Echoes and Aftershocks, having previously been the production accountant on these shows or whatever. So what exactly does this mean? What's this about? That's very, very interesting. We have never heard this name or title before. Echoes and Aftershocks. And specifically, it's Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it's not like Avatar Legacy or just Avatar. It's specifically Avatar: The Last Airbender. So what does that mean? Is this the name, the title of the movie? Is this the working title of the first movie? Is this maybe the title of like some sort of a spin-off series? Because to me, like, does that look like the ideal movie title for that first movie? And I'm kind of like, it would work, but I think it needs to be something a little bit more meaningful. To me, that seems perfect for, like, if they did an Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of like anthology animation type thing. The idea that you're showing these sort of like echoes of stories, like aftershock stories of things that have happened. That's what that kind of feels like to me. But of course, there's nothing to go on other than this. I did a search. I again, it's hard to make these searches really, really detailed. But from what I could see, this is the only mention of echoes and aftershocks that I could find online. It's basically LinkedIn and then other sites that basically link back to LinkedIn ultimately. So make of this what you will. And I think it's just going to be more of a case of just remember, we have heard about echoes and aftershocks. And the other main thing to note here is that they've been working on this since May 2022. So since the middle of last year, echoes and aftershocks has been a thing. Now, make of that what you will in regards to the fact that 2 months later was when they officially announced at San Diego Comic-Con that the first movie was going to be an Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. So maybe it just is the working title behind the scenes for the first movie, because I think it is interesting that it has that Avatar: The Last Airbender subtitle. For an animation project, I think if they're using that, that has to mean it is directly related to Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't think that's meant to just be sort of generic as such, but we'll see what's actually going on. So, yeah, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the Imbalance Omnibus edition announced at last for an August release. The Azula comic has a slightly better description, and we also got the comic release date. So it is September across the board, assuming no further delays. And then the mystery of echoes and aftershocks. What are your thoughts on that? But yeah, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.